Good morning. I'd like to call the PZA meeting for September 21st, 2022 to order. Get a roll call, please.
Mr. Featherling?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Tholen? Ms. Peters? Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Snipes?
Present.
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Mr. Dunnell?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Ms. Hudson?
Present.
Mr. Alexander Hildebrand? Mr. Gowler? Ms. Foster?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Searoy? We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up we have public comment. I have 3 today. So first up will be Michael Maloney. Can I get you to step up to that microphone over there and state your name and address for the record?
Sure.
I got it on here. Okay.
My name is Michael Maloney. I'm the Executive Director of Gardner Prairie Youth Center, and our office is located at 657 East Court Street here in Kankakee, Illinois. The facility or the property that we're going to be discussing today is located at 10295 North East River Road North in Moments, Illinois. Okay, so there was just a few issues that we want to address, actually some concerns that the neighbors as well as the Moments High School District raised, concerns that they raised at the ZBA meeting 2 weeks ago. So we just wanted to reiterate some of those, our responses to their concerns. Number one, the fire department stated that, that we had quite a few alarms. Quite a few alarms to go off when we initially started our girls group home. And that was primarily because we had a sensor too close to the stove. And we've remediated that issue. This is quite some time ago. This was early 2021. And we remediated that issue like in the spring of 2021, and there haven't been any concerns since then, but we just wanted to reiterate that. And also with that particular program that's in rural Moments out on 114, we were teaching our young ladies how to cook. And anytime you teach young ladies how to cook, inevitably something will get burned. So with the property that we're proposing currently, we'll have a full-time cook there, and we won't be teaching that particular life skills because these young ladies will be more transient. They'll be younger as well. So we most likely we will not have anything, any food being burned, but I can't make any promises. However, we have we've reached out to the Moments Fire Department to ensure, to let them know that when we are ready to install our fire safety system, that we'll be doing it in consultation with the Moments Fire Department to make sure that everything is up to their standards, as well as up to, of course, the not the fire chief, fire marshal, Illinois State Fire Marshal office as well. So that was one issue that was raised. The other issue that was raised regarding the safety measures that will be taken. Some of the neighbors, they asked about a couple of things that they asked about. They want to make sure that we weren't going to set up like a campus, because that's 16 acres. So they just want to make sure that we weren't going to set up any other homes or small cottages or anything of that nature on that property, and we assured them that no, we're going to use the existing structure, and that's the only structure that we're going to use to house these young ladies. The other issues I'm going to let our clinical director as well as our congregate care administrator address when it comes to the issues that were raised by Moments High School, as well as some of the issues that was raised regarding the mental health statuses of the young ladies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is Stacy Noble. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Stacy Noble, and also my address, 657 East Court Street. I am the Congregate Care Administrator for Garden of Prayer. I also sit on the Illinois State Board of Education for Pembroke Township. Also have experience with working with temporary shelters. I come out of Aurora, and I worked for Aunt Martha's for 13 years at the temporary shelter there. So I have a lot of experience working with temporary shelters. So Moments had brought up a concern about the cost. So with the temporary shelter coming to Moments, the previous district, with any children that come into the temporary shelter, the cost is coming from the previous district because they will fall under the Homeless Shelter Act unless they stay there longer than 6 months. We usually don't, the cost doesn't usually go to the district, and that was a concern. And also they had quoted some prices far as, some costs for the district far as IEPs and 504s. And those costs were for if they went to a therapeutic day school. Usually with the kids, even in our group homes, if they go to a therapeutic day school, that cost us is about $60,000. I'm sorry, about $60,000. But most of our kids that we do have in our group homes, not everyone is in a therapeutic day school. So that varies. If they do have an IEP or a 504 and go to the regular high school, that doesn't cost the district that much more if they were without an IEP or a 504. So that wouldn't cost the district that much money. And that's for the record.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next up we have Malakal Harris. Malakal?
Good morning.
Morning.
It's Mikal Harris.
Mikal, okay.
I've actually never heard that pronunciation.
It's the
I add
writing
one
that
to it.
confused me.
Yeah.
The writing.
So good morning.
Morning.
Mikal Harris, Clinical Division Director, Garden of Prayer Youth Center. Also address is 657 East Court. And I wanted to say something about the psychiatric issues because there was a concern of kids going into psychiatric crisis. But we'll be a shelter, and less than 6% of the kids we deal with actually get into psychiatric crisis. When you deal with kids who are transient or homeless, these kids experience anxiety, they experience depression, they experience attachment disorders, but psychiatric issues is usually not what these kids experience because it was expressed that they were concerned about psychiatric crisis. When kids go into psychiatric crisis, kids go to hospitals and kids go to residentials and they go into locked facilities in the state of Illinois. But we won't be dealing with that population. This population also will be younger than the population that we usually deal with. So when the psychiatric crisis happens, we usually don't get those type of kids. We really truly are dealing with kids in the state of Illinois that are displaced. Also about the safety, we also will have at least 4 trained licensed professionals working on every shift that we have. We'll also have emergency staff committed to psychiatric crisis if it actually happens. But again, even the population we have now, less than 6% of the kids we have actually go into psychiatric crisis. And in the Department of Children and Family Services, they don't send children in psychiatric crisis to shelters. These are just kids that need a place to stay and they need a place to live until a location is founded for them so that they'll have a nice home to live in. So, and actually tying into the educational piece too, when we get these kids, a lot of our kids won't be with us 6 months. So some of the kids that we get will not even go to school in the district. They may be able to take advantage of the new system in Illinois where since COVID, they can take their educations online. A lot of them, we're gonna opt to keep them in the districts that they are with because their stint with us will be so short and may actually re-traumatize a child to put them in a whole entire new school, go to that school for 14 days, then we take them out of that school, and then we send them to another district when they get a location to live. So that's all I had, so that will be on the record. And I don't actually think that psychiatric crisis actually is an issue based on the stats that we found working with kids in the state of Illinois.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up we have Ryan Magnoni.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Mignoni. I am the project developer for the 2 proposed solar projects within the county and what's being discussed here today. As per the last at the zoning board meeting, none of these projects received any opposition towards them. There was only support from the people who did end up showing up. We feel that these are great locations as they impact the least amount of people, while still providing a benefit to bring about 2,500 households within the county a renewable source of energy. So just kind of wanted to talk on that, and I hope you guys can see the benefits that these projects can bring, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have for public comment today. Okay, next up is the approval of minutes. Everybody received the minutes. Anybody have any additions, deletions, or corrections they would like to make? Barring none, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve them. Mr. Swanson first, Mr. Snipes second. All in favor say aye. Okay.
Aye.
Okay, next up we have the building report. Dell's gonna give that to us. Can we get a motion to approve it, or are we just gonna get this for information?
Motion.
Okay, we'll combine and approve them, okay. I only have one. You. Okay, I get a motion to combine and approve them, and okay. Ms. Hudson with the first, and we'll get Mr. Larry back there with the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So they're both done. Okay, Dell, there's 2 pages here.
Can you turn me out, please?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, the July building report should have been handed out to you today. It was not done in time to put in your packet. We had a total of 85 permits for July with a revenue of $32,457. No new homes. We did have a enterprise zone industrial permit for CSL with a value of $17,041. Total revenues for the month of July was $36,992. For August 2022, we had 1 new home, total of 100 permits for revenue of $32,662. Total revenue for the month of August was $35,762. Both of these months were extremely comparable to the same months last year, give or take a few dollars. They were right on.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Dell? Okay, back there, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. If you were just estimating, how many of these permits are issued via the online portal versus paper? And do you see a trend?
It's trending up. It is trending up. I'd probably say we're probably in about the 30-40% range online right now. We'd like to get those numbers pumped up, but
okay,
the more we get the word out, the more it does happen.
It's been about, what, a year with the system, or about 6 months with it up and running?
Right about, we started January 1st, so
Okay.
we're about 8 months, 9 months in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dell, do we actually have somebody trying to promote it, or no?
We'll be putting it on the new county website as soon as that's available. We do tell everyone that we meet, but that's
Yeah, go ahead and use it.
as much as we can, yes. So,
Is there any signs up down there to let anybody know that they could have done it online? They would have
well,
saved
if they're
the trip?
already here, they're usually applying here, but we
No,
do
but I
let
mean,
them,
if they had a sign up there that says, hey, you could have done this from home.
we do let everyone know that they could do it from home the next time,
Right.
or when they'd like to, so.
Okay.
What it's really popular with is our contractor registration renewals. I would say that's more in the 80% range.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so it helps a lot.
Excellent.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Okay, Dell, we're gonna go to decommissioning. Okay, next up is the decommissioning plan and bond for Kankakee 1 solar farm.
Okay, Kelly, could you put this up here? All right, first slide. All right, the Kankakee Solar 1 LLC solar farm is in the process of applying for their building permits, and part of that, part of the requirements for that is that they have a decommissioning plan and bond in place with the county. They've submitted the decommissioning plan, and my staff has reviewed it, and it is adequate. And the bond amount for that one would be $226,073.88. I do have a map up there showing you the locations of these. Kankakee Solar 1 is to the west of, basically to the west of the Diamond Point baseball fields. That little white area down at the bottom is the substation down there, that kind of complex you see there. So it's the one up to the west of that. This would be the 2 megawatt community solar gardens that were approved by zoning in 2018.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions about the decommissioning plans? Okay, Mr. Wheeler.
Are these two for Kankakee 1 and 3 the same decommissioning plan, or is there variation between the two?
There is a variation because there is a different number. It's a little more to take out, I believe. They are both 2 megawatt facilities, so.
I was gonna see if one want to do them at the same time, but I think
you could combine them and approve the individual amounts.
You want to talk about both of them?
I can, if you'd like.
Yeah,
Sure, let's talk about both of them.
Okay, the other one is Kankakee Solar 3. These are by the same company, even though what's the name of the company is Pivot Energy. They give them all LLC names, though. Kankakee Solar 3 is the box on the right-hand side there. It's a larger parcel, but it's not using the entire parcel. That's a 2 megawatt as well. The decommissioning total on that is $295,206.70. There's some slight variations, usually because one needs a little more fencing or a little more road work or a little more site work that has to be restored.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Dell on that one? Okay. No questions? No? Okay. We get a motion to approve. Okay, Mr. Snipes first, Ms. Hudson second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. None. Okay, so it passes. That'd be the first one.
Just for your information, those numbers are reviewed every 3 years and adjusted
spending money, Andy?
accordingly.
No, at some point we'll be getting it, but I guess the question, I need to state it for the record that it's combine and approve.
Okay, because I didn't do that at first, so I didn't know if you would, okay.
Yeah, so because you could make the motion, if they agree that the motion's combine and approve.
Okay.
It should
We
be
get-
stated, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Snipes, do you agree with that? Ms. Hudson, you agree with that? Okay, we got it both to agree to that, so we're gonna combine these two. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, none opposed. Okay, thanks for putting them together. Okay, next up we have a zoning. You have a special use permit number 8 in R1 single family district, community residential home on a parcel generally situated in section 24 of Gardner Township. Petitioner is Garden of Prayer Youth Center property owner and applicant.
Garden of Prayer Youth Center is requesting a special use permit for 10295 East River North Road, which would be the 11.84 acre parcel is what I have written here. Located just outside of the village limits of, or city limits of Moments. It's highlighted in red there. It's a large parcel. The special use permit is to establish a community residential home on this property that would house the temporary housing of teenage girls ages 9 to 17, approximately 10 of them. I believe they testified that 10 would be the maximum number there based on their state permits that are required. This case did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals on September 6th. There were some public comments. If you have your findings of fact sheet in front of you, you can read them there, but I can give you a few highlights. Rosemary Foster stated she was a retired DCFS worker and that it is important to have these facilities. Robert Snipes, County Board Member Snipes, stated that he is the president of KCCSI and that his name speaks for itself. He stated that facilities like this change the narrative of a child's life and that he is proof of this statement. He also stated that Garden of Prayer is very passionate about what they do. Daryl McBride, an adjoining property owner, asked if the board members would like to live next door to a facility like this. There was no response. He further asked what would happen if a parent or relative showed up at the facility to cause trouble. Mr. Maloney stated that they do not allow relatives on the property and that the location of the children is not disclosed. Larry Henderson, a pastor who ministers to the children housed with Garden of Prayer, stated that he has seen amazing things happen to the children housed at Garden of Prayer facilities. Shannon Anderson, Mr. Anderson, is concerned about the impact to the school district and stated many facts and statistics to support his claims, including estimates of cost and time. He further stated the district resources are finite and that this would be the third facility in the district. Jennifer McBride, an adjoining property owner, asked what will happen to the remaining farmland. Mr. Maloney stated that it would continue to be farmed. So those were the public comments taken at the hearing. Also testified at the hearing that the house has 2 kitchens, I think 2 bathrooms, 5 bedrooms. It would be converted to the community residential home. There would be an office in there for their personnel. That the house does have all the facilities that are needed. There are some updates that would require some building permits to further develop the property, but that it was adequate for their needs. So with that, the Zoning Board of Appeals did vote 6-0 to recommend the approval and did not place any conditions upon that approval.
Okay, thanks, Del. I have a couple quick questions here. We have 17 acres there. We have 1 house on it. It's not a very big house, I mean, for the size of the property. Is there any thought being given to putting a little condition on the property that they're not allowed to add cottages or more units to the facility?
There was no discussion about any conditions at zoning board, but if that is the pleasure of this committee, you certainly could put some type of condition on the approval.
If we didn't put a condition on it, how many units could they fit possibly on that property, included in this special use? They'd have to come back in and get a different special use to add units, or can they do it without it? I believe
well, they would be limited to what they testified to at the hearing, which would be 10 children.
Okay.
Now, where they housed them on that, I mean, if that house burnt down and they wanted to build another building somewhere else on the property for those 10 children, they could certainly do that, but it would be limited to the 10 children and the age limitations that they testified to.
Okay, but they could put 10 children in 10 cottages, right?
Conceivably, yes.
Okay.
That would be possible.
So I don't know how anybody else feels about that. I don't think it's a problem for them if that's their real goal, is to get that use that particular property to say that there wouldn't be any more units added, because we have problems with calls out in the rural areas as it is now. Yes, Mr. Laird, go ahead. Mr. Kirkstra, go ahead. Ms. Foster, go ahead. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I've known Garden of Prayer for a long time. As I stated before, I was a former DCFS worker. This is a faith-based agency, and I believe that what they said, that they would only have this house, is what would be. I don't think we need to put any other conditions on it. They have sworn testimony that they are only going to use it for 9 to 10 children, and I believe that to be so.
Okay, anyone else?
I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but there are state permit limitations as well.
Correct.
I don't know if those could be overcome or different permits, but they are limited to 10 currently with the permit that they have.
So would it be a hassle to add that to the conditions? I don't believe so. I don't know. Anybody else have a problem? I'd like to see that happen. Does anybody else got anything to say about that? Mr. Kirk, oh, go ahead, Mr. Wheeler.
I'm just kind of thinking about the process. If they wanted to add another structure, they have to come back here anyway. So I don't know about adding the condition. They just can't do it because it would infringe on the spec. Am I correct in that, Del?
Well, I mean, as long as they don't exceed 10 students, if they decide they only want to put three children in this house and build another house for the other 7, that's still within the guidelines of 10. They cannot exceed the 10, but there could be 2 buildings. If they wanted to give each one of them their own cottage and have 10 little cottages, you know, there's building permits and various other items that would have to be addressed. But no, if
it's not an adult,
it could not become a large complex with hundreds of children there. It would be limited. It's already limited to the 10 that they testified.
One follow-up, though.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler.
Could it be subdivided? Could you sell off parcels and put houses on those, being that it's 16 acres, I believe, or whatever?
It certainly could.
Yes,
that is.
But under the special use, would that still cover those acres, or are they free and clear to do whatever they want on if they were to subdivide?
The special use is limited to what was testified to.
If they have the whole 16, they start selling off 5-acre parcels, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
For people to build a house on. Is it zoned for that? And with the special use,
new parcels?
Yes.
The special use would not carry over to the new parcels.
So they could build whatever they wanted then.
Whoever could build whatever.
Whoever could build whatever they
wanted. If they wanted to make a residential subdivision on the remaining property, it's possible. That would require other actions by this board, such as
so that would require another hearing then, Del?
There would be more hearings.
Okay.
If they divided it up, they couldn't put a second community residential home on one of those other lots.
Okay.
That would require another hearing and another approval.
Okay, so we kind of got it covered just with our ordinance as it is. Okay, thank you. Okay, we had do we get a motion? Mr. Kirkstra, go ahead.
Do we have an estimated square footage of the home that they are going to be using for the building or facility?
I don't believe they testified to the exact square footage of it. I know it's a 2-story home. It's 5 bedrooms. It has 2 kitchens, living room, parlor. I know they mentioned parlor area too, and I believe 2 bathrooms. There is
just out of concern coming from a family of 9 and living in a 1,200 square foot house, it was quite inconvenient.
I'm pretty sure this is more than
wanted to make sure that they already did have existing room, or if they're saying 10 children. Is there any estimated time of how long these children would have to stay at these homes?
Up to 6 months, but the testimony was that it was far less than that.
Yes.
Generally, a few weeks to a month.
Yes.
Okay. There is an attached garage that they intend to turn into the staff offices. So that does not take away from the square footage of the home itself.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Swanson, go ahead.
Was the city of Moments notified?
Yes.
Did they have anybody show up, give an opinion?
They did not. They were notified that they chose not to participate.
And how many bedrooms is in this house?
5.
So that's 2 per room. Yeah. Yes, Ms. Hudson.
So how soon they can prove, how soon could they? How soon would they be able to move forward with the project?
Right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so, Del.
Well, the county board would have to approve this at the next county board meeting, and then they would apply for their building permits for any renovations that they would have to have, and then depending on how long it takes for them to do the construction, so 6 months probably, maybe a year. I don't know what their timeline is. Okay. But the only thing remaining they would need from us would be the building permits.
Okay. And I also think this is a good project to move forward with too. It's much needed.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Swanson.
Just so I understand the vote too, we're gonna give them a special use permit for this property and to put an office into a garage, nothing else, no additions, no. Is that included in the special use?
You are giving you would be granting a special use permit to establish a community residential home on this property that would house 10 girls ages 9 to 17.
With an office in the
That's
garage.
what the special use permit is for.
Okay.
The renovations, turning the garage into an office, that all comes at the building permit stage. Okay. And that's acceptable because it's an accessory to the community residential home.
Okay, we get any more? Okay, Mr. Snipes.
It is my understanding, and of the 11 acres, or almost 12 acres, is currently being used as farm land. I think they got, is it corn or soybeans? Alfalfa. So they're growing alfalfa. And there's no reason under our radar that would ever be changed. It's used for that particular purpose, going to maintain that particular purpose, and is leased out for that particular purpose. So changing the farm is not. The about 6 or 7 other properties, again, they don't, it's not an expansion. They want to do that. They could have on the farm, which is another 40, 50 acres. They don't do that. They like the farmland, and it's to give individuals an opportunity to come out of a troublesome environment into more of a farm area where they're able to laugh and to be able to run, play, be able to get the academics or whatever without the threats of violence and things of that. So the safety of the children is the most priority of Garden of Prayer and the vision of Garden of Prayer. Okay. So our integrity speaks for itself. We got the governor hometown award, the whole 9 yards. So our integrity speaks for itself. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
I may not have mentioned it, but
sorry, I turned you off.
I may not have mentioned it, but they did testify that they intend to fence in the farmstead home area and leave the farmland as is.
Okay.
Mr. Snipes, did the state's attorney talk to you about recusing yourself from the vote?
I'm recusing myself from the vote because I am a part of the organization, but I don't recuse myself from making the comments.
No, obviously.
You can make comments.
You certainly have the right to comment. You did not mention that you were recusing yourself, so I wanted to make sure.
When you get to the vote, you'll hear me.
Okay.
Most times in this body, we usually say at the beginning of the case that I'd like to recuse myself in this case.
Well, generally when we do the vote, I generally do that, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I was doing that now. I was calling for Mr. Wheeler. You look like you want to say something, so I'm gonna.
I just have a couple questions. Was
Sure.
there statistics provided by the schools on the costs? Did they detail those costs?
They did. They did not present us with any written documents, so I have to go back to the transcripts themselves. I could read that to you if you'd like.
Well, it's not. I just want to know because we're hearing of a discrepancy in the costs. You know, the applicant has said some things at public comment, so that's not necessarily evidence at that point. It's not under testimony. You see where I'm going with that? So we always have that problem with public comment on what's evidence, because that's what this body is. We are a quasi-judicial body where we have to vote based on certain criteria.
Right.
And you can't have preconceived notions. That's one of the reasons, or connections to the applicants. That's why Mr. Snipes has to recuse himself. And we should really never speak on these topics outside of this room right here. So that's why I bring that up, because it prejudices the whole process, even though I would be the one to make the motion that we accept this.
Okay.
I just want to make sure our process is clean, because I don't want to come back in front of this body again. Does that make sense?
I think we got it all.
Okay. I just wanted the process is really important.
The public comment stated here this morning concerning the school district was not presented at the hearing itself. So that is just a public comment.
Exactly.
The school district did address some of that, the 504 meetings, and there's a whole list of various hours that and costs that the school district would incur per student if those requirements were needed.
And then the other thing was the substantiation on the typical time until placement. Whatever the final destinations of these young women are, if you will, girls and young women, how long is the state average when they're in, I want to say, that part of the system until they get into a permanent or semi-permanent accommodation? Did anyone testify to that?
I don't recall that being testified to.
Because we heard 6 months, and could it be a year? And Ms. Foster may have that information.
That's 6 months at this facility, not necessarily till they're in a permanent.
Ms. Foster, go ahead.
I don't know what's, okay.
You gotcha?
I think someone did from Garden of Prayer did talk about the timeline from when a child was placed with them to the time that they are placed in a setting that is adequate for them. I believe somebody did testify to that, but we don't have the written record. The other thing is Shannon Anderson. That's the guy that testified for the school, made public comments. Because here it just says Mr. Anderson is concerned about the impact. Was that the person from the school, or was that just somebody's husband, Dilbert?
Shannon Anderson did speak on behalf of the school.
Did he?
He did not state, though, as to what his involvement with the school was.
Right, so I don't know who he was, but I can.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, he is, okay.
Yeah, he failed to state his position at the hearing, but.
And he didn't leave any documents to the information that he presented. But I can tell this body that I have called our regional superintendent, and I intend to have a meeting with him one day this week.
Okay. Andy, did you say you wanted to make that in the form of a motion then?
I'd make it if the committee so accepts that motion.
Got a first one, Mr. Wheeler, Ms. Hudson, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Just a second.
Okay.
For the purpose of voting, and I would have to abstain from the vote, so.
You kind of did that.
Make sure that's on the record that I abstained.
Okay. Let that show that Mr. Snipes abstained then. I kind of had that down here in my paper already, so. Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, all in favor say aye. Did we do that already? Yes. Okay. Sorry. Not losing my paper. Okay. Next up is ZBA case 2210, a request for rezoning from A1 Agriculture District to A2 Agriculture Estates District and a variance to section 121-100D, lot size on a parcel generally situated in section 12 of Yellowhead Township. The petitioners are William Christian Berger, property owners and applicant. Okay, I don't have to ask about the mailing, sorry. Get a motion in a second on this one? I don't know. Let's go ahead with this. We have anybody have any questions? Do a little discussion. Dell's gonna cover it first.
Okay. The Bergers, Mr. and Mrs. Berger are requesting that the 16-acre tract that is outlined in red on the map up there be rezoned from A1 agriculture to A2 agricultural estate to permit them the ability to build a home and a hobby farm on that property. The history of this property is it used to be a 20-acre site, and the previous owner divided off the home that you see there now that's cut out of it with 4 acres, leaving the 16 acres left. At that time, that owner was informed that you needed 20 acres to build a home in the A1 district, so that 16 acres would not be buildable for a home without some type of zoning action, that's what this action is being requested today. The variance, the A2 district has a minimum lot size of 2 acres and a maximum lot size of 15 acres. Because this parcel is 16 acres in size, a variance is warranted because it does not meet the criteria of that district. The Zoning Board of Appeals voted 6-0 to recommend approval, and that was on September 6th as well. There were no objectors and no public comment was given.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler.
this kind of, I have the same kind of question I did before. So I guess let me start with this. When was it divided? When was it taken from above 20 acres down to the, what, 16, 19, whatever?
16.
16? When
exactly when? Let's see if I do have a creation date on here. They used a farmstead exemption to cut the house out. 2017.
Okay, not that long ago.
Not that long ago, no.
This kind of shows the impact of those decisions. Just so this committee knows.
They do linger.
Yeah, it comes back later, and that's why I'm bringing this up, because when you look at those amount of acres, we're basically not approving just one house. We would be approving the potential of 3 on that same plot. They could sell off 2 other ones, and we've created a subdivision.
That is
rural
correct.
Subdivision.
Once zoning is granted, zoning is permanent until another request is made. So with a minimum lot size in the A2 district of 2 acres, this is a 16-acre tract, conceivably you could have 8. However, the Illinois Plat Act limits you to 5 acres without going through a subdivision process. So since you can go to 5 acres without asking the county board for permission, and you have a minimum of 2 acres in the A2 district, once zoning is granted on this property, this owner or another owner could build 3 homes, cut that into 3 lots and build 3 homes on this property and not have to ask for anybody's permission except for building permits.
So we can't do deed restrictions to forbid that, because that's not
this is a request for rezoning, not a special use permit, so you cannot put any conditions upon it. Either you approve it or you deny it. That's your 2 choices there.
I just assumed when I read it that we were approving 3, there was going to be 3 houses there.
Well, there's going to be 1, but the potential is 3, and if we don't have enough patrolmen for the road now, in the fire districts, we see it in the newspaper, they don't have enough money to operate their ambulance services. It's a real problem. So we're basically encouraging people to move to the rural area, and we can't provide those services because we don't have enough funds to do so. So I'm not saying we need to start hammering this, but we really need to think about these decisions. They're not just one-offs. They're connected to what happened in 17.
The applicant testified that they were just going to build 1 home there. However, this is not a special use permit. You're not bound by that testimony, and certainly a new owner, 5 years from now could divide it up. The zoning's already in place, so.
Not even 5, they could do it as fast as
even if this owner did abide by what they testified to and did not build any more homes on this property and only used it for their own single home, eventually at some point in the future they're going to sell it, and the new owner could certainly do that.
Whatever they want.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically 3 homes on R1.
If you approve this, the committee should assume that they are approving it for 3 homes, because at some point there will likely be 3 homes there.
I mean, this urban sprawl thing we got going on around here is pretty bad, like Andy's saying. So, Mr. Snipes, you have some?
Well, I do share the concern. I also know that if they were to split that up into and make 3 homes, would that not increase almost what they need as far as property value? It would increase the taxes because there would be a home. If there were 3 homes, we're just talking hypothetical. If those homes were built at $200,000, then that means that it would be assessed and put on the tax rolls versus just land. So that means the tax benefit to any government agency when they do that would be that they will be paying upwards in taxes, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000. We don't know. But the thing is, so if you had 3, that's 24,000. At some given point in time, if that was the case of people moving somewhat into the rural, then they would at some point be able to have revenue to substantiate the additional income for services. I'm just hypothetically speaking. You put a house up there, it's not going to be $1 or $2. So it's going to be more than what the current absent is of the land. So land is one thing, but when you start putting things on it with a house, garage, that tends to go up for assessment value, does it not?
Sure.
You are correct, Mr. Snipes, that 3 houses would pay much higher taxes than 1 home or farmland. The farmland doesn't require anywhere near the services that those 3 homes would require. And studies have proven that the amount of property tax that is collected from one single family home does not in any way pay for the services required for it. I think last figure I had seen, it takes typically about $6,000 a year to educate 1 child. So if their tax bill was $6,000 for a year on one of those houses and they had 3 children, you're in the hole for $12,000 already. And you still haven't paid for your police, fire, snow plows, or any other services that home might require. So taxes, while the tax rate or tax base would increase, it would not offset the expenses incurred.
We don't have a cost from a fire department or anybody like that to give us a cost of what it costs to make a run like that.
Well, studies have broken all of that down. I have seen them. I don't have one in front of me right now, and the ones I've seen were several years old, but I don't believe that I don't believe the result of those studies has changed any.
How about any zoning cases we've had in the recent time that would say we're setting a precedent that we're going to approve these 3-acre subdivisions? Is there any close by there that you can remember, Del?
This is the first one we've seen with this type of acreage that I can recall for the A2 district. Typically they come in at 2 to 5 acres, which are not dividable again without some type of board action. However, there is a trend because there is going to be another one or 2 coming in the next few months.
Okay, if you were going to do this, wouldn't it make sense to just do the one big lot and put your house on it?
Well, that's.
But if you're intentionally paying the extra cost to re-subdivide the subdivision, then there must be some kind of plan in place to build the houses on the other 2 lots. Why wouldn't you just have 1 lot? That was my question.
I can tell you that is what they want to do, is build 1 house on this large lot.
But why would you subdivide 3? It is not their
intention to subdivide it at all. However, I am warning the committee, as I did the zoning board, that there is potential for this to be divided into 3 lots. There is no subdivision plat or process required to do so, to cut that into 3 5-acre lots. 1 would be 6. There would be no further action by the county board required to do that. So there would be very little expense. There'd be a survey and the filing of the deeds to accomplish that. There would be absolutely no review by the county board. There would be no review by the Natural Resource Inventory Report for the Soil and Water Conservation. There would be no review from any other government agency other than the building permits themselves.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler, you had?
All I was going to say is it's not just one tax bill. It's many taxing bodies, and 80% of that tax bill is going to be the school. We can't police it. They can't fire it for that amount of money, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, the fire service can't add rural subdivisions because they don't have enough money to operate right now anyway. They can't serve the ambulances of these areas, and we're small parts of the tax bill. It's a school district that'll get it all, and the school district, last time I checked, doesn't send ambulances or police out to your house. No. That's all I'm saying. We've got to have a policy here and really understand what we're doing, and not just saying, well, I would want to do the same thing. Well, you don't want your taxes to go up, but you want to have rural subdivisions everywhere. The 2 don't go together very well.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? That's all I want the community to realize what we're doing. It's not a one-off. This is connected to a lot of different things.
Still a minor subdivision, so. Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Okay, Mr. Swanson.
Well, on this property, if we were to approve this, saying they did come back for 3 properties on this one parcel, how does the culvert driveway entrances affect? Will they have to come back for a variance on this small piece
Not
of
likely.
property?
Not likely.
Because one each lot gets
That is
one.
a quarter mile of frontage, which is 1,320 feet. And you need 330 feet for one driveway.
Okay.
So, no, they could get 3 driveways in there. In fact, the corner lot could have one on each side. So, as I said, there would be no further action by the board. And when it comes to building permits, if they meet the requirements of the code, then they get the building permit issued. There is no action by the board for that either.
Okay, anyone else have anything? Ms. Hudson, you're good to go? Okay. Okay, Mr. Snipes.
So I read that the planning and zoning, they approved this.
Zoning board recommended approval 6-0.
Right, and even though I hear the taxes and the whole 9 yards, I also know state provides monies in the whole 9 yards. Again, if it's 5, the most they can go is 5 acres. They can't put 2 acres here or whatever. It's 5. So the most is 3 homes. Most of the time, people, when they sell, if they're doing that, it's almost to a relative because they don't want to sell to someone that's not closer to them. The other thing is the people that are coming in the community also generate taxes. You're talking, even if they built the 3, you're talking builders, carpenters, putting people to work the whole 9 yards. So even though I can forethink and say a lot of other things, I really don't. In this case, I think we need to narrow the scope only to what it is that they're asking for and not kind of pre-think what they can do, even though we appreciate the kind of, I don't want to call it a warning, but the additional information that something could occur. However, with the 5 acres, if it was cut up into 5 acres, I'm not going to be the person that restrict the person on their land or their property in this particular area, even though I do hear the warnings that we do have another one coming up, and we do them on a case-by-case basis, and also hear the concerns even of the chairman. But at this point, unless we have some other reason other than just discussion, to not approve it, I will be going with the recommendation of the
Zoning Board of Appeals.
Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yeah. So is that in the form of a motion then, Mr. Sines?
Yes, sir.
Okay, get it first. Mr. Kirk, second?
I have a question.
Sure, Mr. Kirk, go ahead.
Yeah, on page 3 here.
Nobody yet.
We have a couple of maps on there, and the bottom map, which shows Grant Park, Yellowhead Township, Route 1 and Route 17. But down below that, it says a 2005 comprehensive plan map. Is there anything more current?
No, sir.
Is this what we're planning off of 2005?
That is the county's, 2005 is when the county board adopted our current comprehensive plan, which has an accompanying map with it.
Right.
Okay, that is a 20-year plan.
Okay.
We are getting really close to being at the end of that 20 years. Typically, you do update them 10 to 15 years out. We have not had the funds to be able to do so. The comprehensive plan is still valid, and the county's plans for that area is to remain rural.
Okay. Is that all, Larry?
I made the motion, so I second.
Yeah, the motion. Yeah, anything else, Larry?
I made the motion.
Yeah. Okay, Ms. Hudson's gonna second to approve it. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Aye or nay. We got 3 nays. We'll get a roll call vote on that, please. Kelly?
Mr. Featherling?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield? Aye. Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Mr. Dunnell?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Nay.
Ms. Hudson,
Aye.
Ms. Foster, Mr. Wheeler. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Maybe we can, after we talk about some of these planning commission things we're talking about, we'll talk about that comprehensive plan update, though. Kind of far behind on that one, so. Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Announce it.
Okay. ZBA case 22-11 is a request for a special use permit fertilizer sales and service in the A1 agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 6 of Garner Township. The petitioners are Heritage FS Incorporated, property owners and applicants.
Okay.
I get a motion in a second, or we get a motion in a second? Okay, Mr. Kirkster, we get it first. Ms. Hudson with a second. Okay, we got first and a second then. Good.
Okay, you ready?
Okay, go ahead, Del.
Heritage FS Incorporated has a facility on St. George Road, located at 5833 East 5000 North Road. It's outlined in red on the map up there. They were originally granted a special use permit in 1972 for fertilizer, seeds, and sales, and they grew back in 1984. They increased their capacity and were granted another special use permit to add additional land to the property. They're growing again. The area on the eastern side of that property that is now farmland, they have purchased that to add it into their facility and would like to expand the facility onto that property. When a special use permit is granted, it's granted for a specific legal description, and this property's outside that legal description, so in order to utilize that property into their facility, they need to have their special use permit reapproved. This one was on September, this was also September 6th. Went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. There were no objectors, there were no public comment, and the zoning board voted 6-0 to recommend the approval.
Okay, anyone have any questions on that one? Discussion? Mr. Snipes.
I'm about to say, I applaud them 50 years, and they grew in 12 years in 84, and then 38 years they coming back and saying, we growing again. I applaud them, and anytime we have business, especially in the rural farm areas, I'm for it.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Mr. Kirkster.
Yeah. Any consideration been put in that there is a public facility there, a school that's close to that facility? I guess my concern is that if in case of anything catastrophic, is the distance from that school and from the residential area far enough away?
We have no specific setback for that. The school is about a half a mile.
About a
half a mile to the west.
Yeah. Only because I recall an incident of maybe it was a fertilizer manufacturer, but where they had an explosion and they were basically in a residential area, and it was catastrophic. Yes. Yeah. But I was just a concern with that, or if that concern was brought up.
We have no setbacks. There may be setbacks with the state Department of Agriculture or another state agency that regulates that sort of thing. But as far we have no setbacks for ourselves.
But they would, if anything, they would step in if they felt something like that was
right
in. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Can anyone else have anything?
EPA.
Okay, we had a first and a second, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries, I think. Okay, next up is ZBA case 22-12 for a special use permit for a solar farm in the A1 agricultural district and a variance to section 12199C 34B7 interconnect agreement on a parcel generally situated in section 31 of Rockville Township. Petitioners are the Jackson Family Trust owners and USS Warner Solar LLC applicants. Okay. Get a motion and a second on this one. Okay. Mr. Swanson with a first. Ms. Hudson with a second. Okay. Go ahead, Tel. Discussion time.
All right, this is a request for a 5 megawatt community solar garden located on Warner Bridge Road, about a quarter mile north of Illinois Route 102 on the Jackson farmland owned by Jackson Family Trust. It is a 35-acre parcel. It's as I said, it was 5 megawatts in size. The state recently, probably about 6 months ago, changed the rules for community solar gardens. Back in 2018, they were limited to 2 megawatts in size, which came out to about 20 acres, but they did allow them to co-locate 2 on a 40-acre parcel, so you could have up to 4 megawatts. Now the standard size is 5 megawatts, and it's generally on around 35 to 40 acres. So those are the applications that we are getting.
Jeez, that's big.
Yeah, this was heard by the zoning board on September 12th. There were no objectors. There was no public comment. The zoning board voted 5-1 to recommend approval on this solar farm. The dissenting vote stated that they were voting no because of the high LISA score. This has a LISA score of 233 for this site.
Anything over 200 is good, right?
I think it's around 210 okay. Is where the cutoff is between for high potential for preservation. So it is in the higher category. There is also a variance being requested on this
I don't see that.
Okay. Yes, for relief on the requirement of having the interconnect agreement in place for the application. The interconnect agreement is the agreement with Commonwealth Edison to hook it up to their lines. Our ordinance does require that they do that. The trend out there now, though, is to wait until you get approvals before you negotiate your interconnect agreement with ComEd, because it is a quite costly and lengthy process.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? This is okay, Mr. Wheeler.
Yeah, it's. I think it bears discussing every time the word LISA comes in when we're talking about a solar farm, because it's really an irrelevant measure. It's not a permanent. You're not taking that land out of use. LISA scores are based on things like access to schools and roadways, and these are all rural. So it's. I don't know why we keep having that discussion about LISA scores and farmland, because they're permanently not going out of production. Mm-hmm. They're temporary, right. And those scores are skewed in this context. They don't accurately depict what the situation is with that land. Yeah. Does that make sense the way I put it, Del? I guess maybe explain.
I think I can explain a little better on that. The LISA score is part of the Natural Resource Inventory Report, and that report is required for all special use permits and all rezoning. Pretty much anything that would conceivably take land out of farm production. Okay. So they are required, our ordinance requires that they do that, and the LISA score is part of that. The LISA score was developed to be a guide to help you make decisions as to whether a piece of property was ready for development or not. But that development was really permanent development, such as a rural subdivision. Should it be developed into permanent lots, or should it be kept as farmland? So a lot of the scoring criteria, there's 2 parts of the scoring criteria. That's why it's called LISA, land evaluation. That's the soil, the productivity, all the things that agricultural land would be looked at from a farming standpoint, drainage, that sort of thing. That score pretty much based on, it's based on the information tables for those particular soil types. Not very, that score is what it is, and that's about 50% of the score. The score the part of the score, which is the site assessment part of the score, is the part that really doesn't fit for solar farms. These are questions like, what's the proximity to schools, to police and fire? Because if you're going to put a rural subdivision out, as we talked about earlier, the closer you are, the less expense what's the availability of public sewer and water. All of these things are not things that solar farms need. Solar farms do not send children to our schools. They have no need for sewer and water. And quite frankly, probably not much more need for police or fire than the farm field itself. So, and each one of these criteria being worth anywhere from 5 to 10 points apiece, you can get a pretty high score that just doesn't really reflect reality here. We also must keep in mind that these are a temporary use. Temporary could be 20 to 40 years, but at some point, if they don't repower them, and I can't predict the future, it will be reverted back to farmland and come back to farming in a much better condition than it left. So denying one based on the LISA score, I think, in my opinion, is a disservice to that. There could be other reasons you'd want to deny it, but if you just base it solely on the LISA score, you really shouldn't.
Okay, anyone else have any more comments? Of we got a first and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Okay. One nay, Kelly. Thank you. Okay, next up is ZBA case 2213, request for a special use permit. Section 1219934 solar farm in the A1 agricultural district, and a variance to section 1219934B7 interconnect agreement on a parcel generally situated in section 17 of Limestone Township. The petitioners are Wayne F. Dorleys, H. O'Connor Trust, property owners, and USS Connor Solar LLC applicant. Okay, can we talk about a motion in a second here? Okay, Mr. Kirkster, we got a first, and Ms. Hudson with a second again. Okay, Del.
Just 1 second here. Okay. There is a error in the finding of fact report. It says it's a 35-acre parcel. That's actually like a 140-acre parcel. They're only utilizing 35 acres of it. Property is located at 5876 West 2000 South Road. It's in Limestone Township. You can see it outlined in red there. It was a 160-acre parcel, but has had a few homes cut out of it. The solar farm is proposed to use the 35 acres up in the upper northeast corner of it for another 5 megawatt community solar garden. This one would be placed about 80 feet from the eastern property line at the request of the property owner, so that they could get their row planter between the property line and the community solar garden. There was a public comment on this. Dennis O'Connor, who owns the property to the east, did ask the exact measurement between the property line and the facility's fence, and that was stated to be 80 feet. They will be placing a landscape buffer along 2000 Road for the enjoyment of those homes across the street. I think there's one home across the street, so they will be putting a landscape buffer on the northern portion of it there. Zoning Board of Appeals heard this one on September 12th and voted 6-0 to approve both the special use permit and the same variance as the previous one for the interconnect agreement.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? This special use, Del, could you explain that real quick to everybody, or did you do that already?
What do you mean?
The special use is because of the interconnect agreement?
That'd be the variance.
That'd be the variance.
It's the same reason as the previous one. At some point, we may want to take a look at our ordinances about possibly changing that. because the industry these days, you really get your approval from the local authority first, then you go talk to ComEd about your interconnect agreement. But because our ordinance still says that, they needed a variance for it.
Okay.
Can I just provide clarification on that a little bit?
Only what you testified to at the hearing, and that's up. That would be up to Mr. Featherly.
Okay. You have to go up to the microphone. I don't know. Is this? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Just on the interconnect, and it's what I had testified.
Excuse me, I didn't get you turned on yet. I'm sorry, sir, but I don't know if we're allowed to let you comment anymore.
That would be up to the.
We have to have a motion here to decide whether they want to let him re-comment on his comment or not. Is that right, Mr.? Okay, yeah. So we'll get a motion in a second to let him. Okay, Mr. Snipes. Mr. Kirkster, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. No nays. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to make a clarification on the reason for the variance on the exact submittal to ComEd. We already have a pre-application back from ComEd to say that the utilities out there can support a project of this size, but we have not formally have an interconnection agreement. The new statutes from the state just went in place on August 23rd of this year, so about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And those new statutes no longer require an interconnection agreement to be done for us to, when we submit to the state. Once we receive approval, that's when the state, that's when we go and submit to the utility itself. This was done specifically because, like you said before, the cost of doing this is very high, and the developers that were taking advantage of the program and winning more projects were the larger companies that could support more of those. So they gave the smaller guys here a little bit more of a chance by removing this as a requirement. So it's still something that we have to do. We'll just be providing that at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Del, we gotta make a note to address that.
I have a note to address that, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, Mr. Wheeler.
Del, was all that under testimony at ZBA?
It was, yes,
okay,
sir.
Thank you.
Pretty much exactly what he said?
Exactly what he said.
Okay, thanks. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Discussion? I got a first and second, so we get all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Okay, Kelly, motion carries, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I clean these mics up here. All right. Okay, next up we have our scanning retention program. We have proposals, Del?
I do have proposals.
Okay.
Where are they at?
Does this need to be approved, or is this just discussion? Discussion, right?
I believe approval.
Approval, okay.
It is.
Yeah.
No, we did not.
Yeah.
I was told we did not have to, but
my understanding was a specific technical type of information that was only available from limited resources, and because of that, it didn't have to go out to bid.
It does not have to go to bid?
That was my understanding. That was my understanding, is that it didn't have to go out to bid because of the nature of the material.
Yeah, that was my understanding too from previous meetings, that we did not have to go to bid on this. We certainly could if we needed to.
I just need, to get a price out here, so that's unfair, but.
Right.
Yeah, now it's already been seen.
What's the unique nature of it? What was unique? Is it the microfilm? Is it the combination of all of that? What makes this unique?
I would defer to Mr. Coughlin about that. It's scanning of our documents and storing them in a digital format.
And I'm trying to remember. I had the material before when I looked at it, and right now I can't recall exactly what the nature was. But there was only, I believe there's only several purveyors, and that the nature of it was that due to how our systems were set up and the relationship to that, and the limitation on the purveyors of this particular thing, that it was so specified that we didn't need to go to bid. But I can go back and look at my notes.
Okay, but if that's your recall, you're telling us that's...
My recollection is that it didn't have to go to bid.
Follow up then?
Okay.
Would it be okay is if we do find that this is a value and we do approve it, we could provide that for the full board? Would that be appropriate, just in case, so we can tell the full board that this is the nature of the uniqueness of it? So I think if we can go forward, it shouldn't be tabled. I think we can go forward pending pulling those documents and showing that unique nature. I think we need to say that on the record.
Yeah, because we usually bid everything out over certain amounts.
Yeah, unless it's a unique service or things like that.
Okay.
We originally went into this expecting to bid it, and then I was told we did not have to, so.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Calhoun.
All right. Should we go forward?
Let's go forward.
All right. Next slide, please. No. Oh, there it is. Okay. We did ask for proposals. We had 2 companies that provided a proposal for us. And the amounts are Information and Records Associates was $70,093.97, and Proven IT is $91,210. And this would be for all of our permitting files, our property files, subdivision files, and general files. Now, we would still retain these files. They would be taken and scanned and put in boxes and stored somewhere, because we still have to meet the requirements of document preservation. The files that we chose to have this done are files that can be discarded after 5 years. The ones that we have to keep forever, such as our zoning files, we chose not to do those at this time. But this does eliminate 80% of our filing cabinets.
Okay, I have a quick question, Del. Where are the cabinets going to go?
They will be declared surplus and disposed of.
No, I mean the stuff in the cabinets too.
The boxes?
Yeah.
We have an area in the basement next door that we would likely fill up with these boxes.
Okay. So you have a place to plan to put them somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have any discussion on that topic? We've been talking about this for a while. Okay, got a motion to approve Mr. Snipes.
The lowest number is $70,093.97.
Okay. That was, you made the first, right, Mr. Snipes? Okay. Okay, Ms. Hudson again for a second. We'll do a roll call here. Mr. Wheeler, sure.
In terms of, you compared these two, Dell, and they're in terms of responsibility, they're providing the services that you need.
They are comparable services, yes.
Okay, and what are they doing as far as the ones that come back? Are they gonna tag them that this is all your 5-year records with a date? I mean, how's that gonna work? So obviously,
we will put the date on them.
Okay.
I mean, there's various dates in these files, so the day they come back to us, that's when we're going to start the 5 years on each box. Each box will be labeled by the drawer it came out of.
I see.
Each drawer of a cabinet will be a box.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller? Aye. Mr. Fairfield? Aye. Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Swanson?
Aye.
Mr. Dunnell?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstrad?
Aye.
Ms. Hudson?
Aye.
Ms. Foster? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next up we have a discussion about the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission bylaw amendment. We've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks. Del, you have some discussion for that for us.
I do. I believe at the last PZA meeting, I brought this up to the committee. We've been having a lot of issues with attendance and with commission members renewing their appointments. We've also had a lot of trouble getting quorums at our meetings. In fact, we have gone several months with the inability to even approve minutes at meetings because of lack of attendance. Our current planning commission is at 17 members, 2 of those being county board members. To help with, and if you guys look at the agendas, month after month, we announce that we have openings on the Regional Planning Commission, and there does not seem to be anybody out there that wants to join. We get very few applications. To help rectify this, which would lower our quorum requirements, and since we're not having people who really want to participate anyway, we would like to change the bylaws of the Planning Commission to reflect lowering the membership number to 11 instead of 17. And what we would do is those that have not renewed, that would lose 6 spots, and we would remove those that have not renewed or that we know do not want to any longer be on the Planning Commission. We currently have there's 2 openings on the Planning Commission right now that have absolutely no one slated for those. And the third one, Dr. Peter Radulovic, has expressed that he no longer wants to be on the commission as well. So there's 3 there that have nobody in them. And then we have a few others, and I don't know that I want to call them out by name, but there's some that have not renewed their appointment since 2020 and that have not attended a meeting except the first meeting when they were appointed. So we would be looking at eliminating those slots.
So we'd be trying to go down to 11.
Mm-hmm.
We have the chairman over here. Does that seem to be a number that you'd be able to work with better, Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Going down from 17 to 11, we would potentially lose some representation from the community, but if there are no community members interested in serving, then in order to continue making quorum, I think 11 would be a good number.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments on that? Okay, Mr. Wheeler.
I just think that if a motion is made, that it should reflect not necessarily renewed application, but it should be has not been there in over a year. Because there is somebody who's on that commission who's the secretary that hasn't renewed their application, but they don't miss any meetings. They just haven't sent their application in. So I think it's really attendance and not application, if you will. Okay. So when we're declaring the vacancy, I would just hate to lose a member because she hasn't reapplied, but she's always there.
But do we even have to state that if we're just going to change the amount in the group to 11?
Because all the resolutions say that until a replacement is found. Okay. So we'd actually have to, in the motion, we're going to have to remove those who have not been for a year. And then when these new appointments come up, because we have what, 4 that are going to renew at the end of the year?
There are 4 or 5 more right now that are coming up for renewal. Yes.
And so out of those 4 or 5, there may be 2 that we may be 1 over. We may be at 12 people. So we'll have to make some decisions at that point. Okay. Does that make sense? But some of those people don't come either. So it's that's what we're getting at here. We in a couple of months it'll be a year for a few of those folks. Okay. So I'm just saying the motion should include that year or 2 years or whatever you want to say as far as having attended in over X amount of time.
Okay. So we're saying we're going to eliminate people that haven't been there in a certain amount of time then?
I would say, yeah, that would be a good motion.
3 years, Dell, or 2 years?
Eliminating any members that have not attended in 2 years.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Okay, we had a, sorry. Do we have a motion in a second on that? No, okay. Okay, Mr. Snipes.
So basically, you generally need 8 for a quorum. Now you just only need 6 for the quorum, and we're amending the bylaws. So that means this will just be our recommendation to the county board to amend the bylaws so that this can take place. This can occur.
That's correct.
Okay.
With the stipulation that we would be removing anyone who hasn't attended in 2 years. Or
Okay.
vacating those.
So strict adherence.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's the motion. Were you making it?
Yeah, we'll make the
Okay.
motion.
Get a second, Ms. Hudson again? Okay, good, okay. This will be an all in favor, say aye type thing. All in favor, say aye.
Should we have a roll call since it's a change of bylaws or just a recommendation?
I think it's a recommendation, I'm not sure. Dell, is that a recommendation or is
You're
that
recommending to the county board to make the change.
in the bylaws?
So we can just do, okay.
Okay, and how long would it take before this takes place? Before we would drop to the 11? Would it be next meeting of the regional planning? We gotta go for the county board and change it?
As soon as we would pass the county.
Okay, so as soon as it goes through the 11th or whenever that is coming up the next meeting then?
Walk out of the door
Yeah.
on that Tuesday.
Okay,
Next meeting of the Regional Planning Commission's tomorrow.
okay, so you let them know tomorrow, Chad, what's going on, okay?
Yes.
Can we get Mr. Fairfield? Sure. Right.
We also add that those that are being removed would be notified by letter so that they know they're being removed.
Sure. Everybody agree with that? Motion in a second? Yeah? Okay. Do we have to say what the letter's gonna say?
No.
Yeah? Okay.
Up to the chair.
Okay. Roll call, please. Oh, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Mr. Dennell?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Ms. Hudson? Aye. Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, anything under old business?
I have some new business.
Okay, we got new businesses next. So that's Dell. Okay, Dell, it's all yours.
Okay, we had announced that the Heritage Prairie public hearing would be September 26th at the library on the 4th floor at 6 p.m. That has been canceled. The public notice in the newspaper did not get published, so we had to reschedule. It will now be October 6th, still at the library, 6 p.m. on the 4th floor. So if you have anyone interested in attending, please let them know. We're trying to get the word out as much as possible. The mailings had already gone out to the adjoining property owners, so there may be some confusion as to the new date. But they will be getting new notices.
You have to redo the mailings, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thanks. Mr. Wheeler.
Just how much are those mailings? Just curious.
The mailings themselves
25?
are estimated to be about $2,100, $2,200.
So when the newspaper dropped the ball, are they gonna give us that $2,100 back?
Well, what they did was they cut the cost of the publication in half, which still ended up being $3,300. So this would have been about a $6,000.
Can you approach them and see if they'll write off the other $2,100? Because they
$6,500,
cost us money. They cost the taxpayers money by their
If they didn't do it,
non-performance.
why should you pay them for it?
Well,
We have to pay for it, but we shouldn't have to pay for the
yes,
ad.
the applicant actually pays for that publication and the mailings. Our cost is involved is rescheduling everything.
Well, on the applicant's behalf, it's not fair that
Yes.
they should have to pay for that mistake.
Yes.
Because I'm sure it costs them money they're not just flying into town on a whim. They got to make plans.
Yes,
Spend
I am
money.
quite sure they all had to cancel or reschedule their flights and hotel rooms and beyond just the cost of the notification.
Okay. Let's see what we can do.
We will call them and see what we can do.
Thank you.
This is for the one in Essex, right?
Yes, the Essex area.
Okay, anything else under new business? Or any more discussion about Dell's new business? Okay, Ms. Hudson's making a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kirk's the second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign.